Look at this, out in Utah here. Mandatory watercraft inspection. Now think about this for a minute. What they're saying is, this is a mandatory search. You shouldn't comply with this. So they say, oh, it's to protect the waters, right? Well, then send a guy down at the boat launch and say, hey, can we make sure your boat doesn't have any invasive species? Who do they think they are? Have you ever heard of the Fourth Amendment? You ever heard of no search, no seizure, without warrant, without probable cause? What's the deal? Let's go find out. How's it going?
Pretty good, how are you?
Good. What's the deal with this?
This is an aquatic invasive species check.
So do you get a warrant for this, or?
No, it's just something put on by the state. The boaters are required by federal law to stop in.
Well, look, I'm sure you're just doing what you're, kind of what they tell you to do, but that's a violation of the Constitution, both the Utah and the federal. You can't search somebody, have a mandatory checkpoint searching people's stuff without a warrant, probable cause, things like that. You can't just stop people on the road. Have you read the Utah State Constitution or the United States Constitution?
I have not. I'm just doing my job, sir.
That's what the kids that ran the gas chambers in Nazi Germany said, too. Do you think that was an excuse for them?
Sir, I'm not going to get into this with you right now. I'm here doing a job that I was asked to do by the federal government.
The federal government? This is a federal government. Looks like it says you're with Utah DNR.
I'm with the Utah Division of Wildlife.
Uh-huh.
And we are doing the aquatic invasive species. We have been asked to do it by the federal government to stop the spread of invasive species.
So once again, we have the feds who are locking away political prisoners all over the country and
Sir,
taking away our lands.
I'm not getting into this with you.
I don't think you understand. I'm here to ask you the questions, right?
Okay, I'm not here to answer your questions.
I don't care if you're here to answer my questions. You're violating people's rights here, and I have a problem with that. You should be ashamed of that. Are you an American?
I am an American. I served in the military. I was in the Navy.
So you did take an oath to the Constitution?
I did.
But you've never read it?
I've read the federal Constitution, not the state Constitution.
So why are you violating it then? You took an oath, man. You took an oath.
We never search a single vessel without the owner's permission to search.
Okay, so if we drive by here, you won't do anything. If we drive by with a boat.
I am not allowed to do anything if you drive by with a boat.
Okay, so we don't get pulled over, nothing like that?
I am required to contact the authorities, and they take the actions that they deem necessary.
Which is what? Murder us on the side of the road?
No.
Because we see that happening a lot in America these days too. Do you understand my concern? It's not that I want to pick on you. It's that you're saying, hey, mandatory stop, right? Mandatory stop. I'm going to call out the guys with guns to point them at your head if you don't stop and let me search your boat. So it's not voluntary. Your sign says. They pull in. I ask two simple questions. Mm-hmm. I ask them where they were last, what water they were at last. You have no right to ask those questions.
If they've been anywhere in the last 30 days.
Okay. And what if they refuse to answer those questions?
Then they cannot launch on the water. That is state law.
You have no authority over the water.
That is just the way the state law is running, how the state government is running.
Do you see the cognitive dissonance in your statement? So you're saying you took an oath to the Constitution, but you're okay if the state violates the Constitution. There should be a moral conundrum there. There's never, I'm just doing my job, friend. There's only right and wrong. That's all I'm saying.
Sir, I'm not going to get into this. I'm simply trying to do the job that I was asked to do by the state.
You shouldn't do jobs if they're morally wrong.
There's nothing morally wrong with people voluntarily pulling in to get checked.
It's not voluntary. Your sign says mandatory, and according to you, the police will chase us down, and according to news articles on this, we'll be fined if we don't stop here. That's not mandatory. Don't worry, he said this isn't mandatory, even though the sign says it. Let's see what happens here. So here's the illegal questioning. You don't have to answer his questions, guys.
I simply just don't know.
See, the problem is everybody thinks they have to obey, right? And so they're just going to sit here and they're going to answer. And I understand people's fears. We're used to it being okay for these guys to violate their oath to the Constitution. There's no such thing as a mandatory inspection unless there's probable cause, unless there's a warrant. I'm not going to get too close because I don't want to invade the privacy of the people driving, you know? It's unfortunate that they don't stand up. This is the problem, guys. You don't question, you don't resist. That's why our prisoners are in jail. That's why we have lawlessness everywhere. Because we don't say, wait a minute, I have a right, right? I have a right. I need to set an example for my children instead of just worrying about whether I'm going to go play. It's not right. It's not right what this young man's doing. it's not right to submit to tyranny. The law in this country says that this is illegal. There's no such thing in America as a mandatory watercraft action under our law. This sign is illegal. It's equivalent to a roadblock. And so here's this guy asking questions. Illegal. Illegal. And everybody's just going along with it. So here's the problem. While we're waiting, I just stopped to question this because we're at the gas station and I see this place here, right? And so now he's gonna go look him over. Now comes the search. And don't think this isn't a search. He sees something, he's poking around. You know, who knows what else this guy's watching for, right? And so here he's given up liberty for a paycheck. He took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. Where's our veterans? Where's our police? Doing their job? That's not good enough for me. That's not good enough for me. I'm just watching around here, making sure the cops or the feds. That's an interesting thing too. The feds. The federal government is the one asking them to do this. That's the people that are abusing people, locking them in prisons, making up fake gun laws, locking our families, the Bundys, murdering people like Lavoie. And people say it's to protect our waters. No, it's not. They could have a nice man down at the boat launch saying, hey, you mind if I help you get anything crusty off your boat, help get any invasive species off, right? They don't have to have checkpoints. I've seen 2 or 3 of these checkpoints just in like a 30-mile radius here. So now if you have a boat, you're treated like a criminal. That's wrong. That's wrong. It's not to protect the waters. How did we ever survive before the government came in to protect our waters? You know what the federal government does? They pollute our waters. The EPA pollutes our rivers and our waters. See, the government is not about protecting anything for you. They're about protecting their power, their fake authority that's a gun to our head. And see, these people are probably, I don't know, maybe they're patting this guy on the back. Maybe they're patting this guy on the back saying, oh, well, you're doing your job. Thanks for protecting our waters. There's no doing your job, folks. There's 2 things. There's good and evil. There's right and wrong. There's loving your neighbor and there's abusing your neighbor. There's the rule of law and there's crimes. See, our government has no authority. People say, Gavin, you're supposed to obey the government, right? No, you're supposed to obey lawful authority. Life, liberty, and property. God's law. We're not doing it. Let's see what he's saying. So you broke the law again. What do you think about that?
I think you are a bigot.
Why am I a bigot? Explain to me. I think I'm being nice to you.
Respect the authority of the federal government.
The authority of the federal government. So how do you feel about like the Bundys? What's your name, by the way?
I am not disclosing that information.
Aren't you a public official?
I am.
So
I'm not required to give you my personal information.
Okay, do you have a badge number or an identification then?
I do not. I am a biology technician.
And so why are you out here acting like a police officer violating people's rights? And why am I a bigot? Do you know what a bigot is?
I do.
Explain that to me. Is this where you call in for your backup because you feel picked on because I'm holding you to accountability?
No, this is because you're disturbing the peace and offending boaters.
Offending boaters?
Yes.
I think it should offend boaters that you're searching them illegally. So here's the thing, guys. It's all about the fake authority. He gets his paycheck. He does his stuff. He took an oath. He refuses to honor his oath. Now he's going to call in the goons, right? It's not about any intimidation or coercion. It's just about abusing people. Biology technician working for the federal government and the DNR. This is what it's about. It's about control. It's not about protecting anything. If they wanted to protect people, they'd protect their rights. They'd protect the rule of law. Is your Fed buddies not answer? I'm not going to stay here with you all day. I think I've made my point. What I want to say is, and I'd have nothing against you, honestly. I mean, I love my neighbor. I'm concerned that you're violating.
It really doesn't feel like you love me.
Telling the truth is loving, though. I can't lie to you. Patting you on the back and say, hey, thanks for violating rights and your oath would not be loving you. Loving you is to tell you the truth. You're wrong. You're doing crimes. You're violating the oath you swore to uphold.
I respect your opinion.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'm going to let you go. My name's Gavin. What's your first name, at least?
Trent.
Okay, you have a good day, and just think about it. Read the Constitution. Think about what it really means when it says we can't search, we can't seize, we can't stop people without probable cause. Because I'm telling you, man, this country's coming unglued.
I see your point of view there. I am actually quite disturbed by how the government has been overstepping their bounds.
Well, fair. That we're on the same point there then. But don't you realize that the little things lead to the big things?
Yes, it does.
I mean, when I see a checkpoint, I'm like, wait a minute. Next thing, what do they do next, right? They have to search my children. Where's it in? Just think about it,
So
okay?
the thing I'm seeing here is that, yes, we're asking people to stop. We're trying to do it good-mannered. The federal government wants us to stop the spread of these invasive species, which I honestly see your point.
Find a more just way, right?
They're overstepping their bounds.
Sit at the boat launch and say, hey, can we check out your boat and help you clean it, right?
And we have done that in the past, the last few years. This is what it's progressed to. And simply, we have people drive by every day and they don't get in trouble for it.
Right. But what about when they do is the problem? They fear getting in trouble. If you're in terror of something, then the person you're in terror of might be a terrorist. That's something to think about. So
Yes,
I'm going to let you go. I got to be on the road with my family. But, you know, think it over, because every little tyranny grows to great tyranny. And the founding fathers never would have tolerated this. We need to honor our oaths. We need to sometimes say, wait a minute, this is wrong. I'm not going to do it. All right? Be safe. So I'm going to go, right? There was that kind of shift at the end, because I do love my neighbor. I don't want this guy abusing people. I'm being loving by telling him the truth. But for all I know, he's trying to get me to hang out here so his police buddies can come up and give me trouble. Folks, call them out. Loving is telling them the truth. I have no hate for this man, but he's committing crimes. And everybody comes up and they're okay with it, right? They're like, hey, it's fine. Like, thanks for protecting our waters. We've built a nation of slaves and cowards. It's time to stand up. It's time to love your neighbor. It's time to stop pretending that lawlessness is law and that injustice is just and that perverse terrorist courts are courts of law. You have to stop and think. What is being done to your neighbor? What are the consequences when you stand up? You should not be in fear of your government. Your government should be in fear of you.